The noise is not the enemy. What the food chatter is actually trying to tell you and why silencing it might be the wrong wish. I was on a coaching call recently with someone who was using a GLP-1 medication. The noise, that relentless food chatter, the pull toward the drive-through, the 11 p.m. negotiating in her own head, had gone quiet, and she was relieved, deeply relieved. But underneath the relief, a fear was growing. She told me she was worried about what would happen when she came off the medication. She wanted the noise to stay gone, and she wanted, more than anything, to be able to enjoy her treats with moderation, to be like a normal person who could have little something and move on. I sat with that for a moment. That's the wrong wish, I said. Not because moderation is a myth, though for many of us with certain substances it is, but because embedded in that wish is a deeper misunderstanding, one that I think a lot of us carry, often without knowing it. The wish assumes the noise is the problem. What if we could just silence it? We'd be free. But what if the noise isn't the problem? What if the noise is the signal? What the noise actually is. We've been conditioned by decades of experience, by family programming, by a culture that sells comfort in edible form, to believe that certain foods are where joy lives, that the treat is the reward, that the craving points toward the thing that will fix it. So when the noise says, go to the drive-through, we hear you, you need this. And on one level, we do need something. We just need it from a different address. The food chatter, in my experience, and in the experience of the people I work with, is almost never really about food. It's about something underneath. And the noise is the system's attempt, clumsy, insistent, relentless as it seems sometimes, to get that something addressed. On that call, a member I'll call Michelle shared something that stopped everyone. She had just come from the vet with her dog. There might be a tumor. She had felt like a bad mom for not noticing sooner, and as she was driving home, before she was even consciously aware of it, her brain was already mapping the route that passed her old drive-through. I wasn't even really aware of the conversation going on in my head at first, she said. The old pathways were running. The noise was loud, and if you'd asked her right then what she wanted, she would have said French fries. But what she actually needed was to feel less alone, to discharge the fear and the guilt, to be accompanied through the pain of that moment. She texted her small group instead, sat in the car, let the feeling move through her with some witnesses. And the noise, without her fighting it, without her white-knuckling it, lost its urgency. The wrong wish and the right one. The wrong wish is, I want the noise to go away. It's understandable. Of course you want it to go away. The noise is exhausting. It is relentless. It interrupts your thoughts and derails your evenings and makes you feel like you're fighting a war inside your head every day. But here's what happens when the noise actually does get silenced. Whether through medication, strict rules, or sheer white-knuckling willpower, the signal doesn't go with it. The need that has generated the noise is still there. It just gets quieter, and quieter doesn't mean resolved. That's what my caller was afraid of, not the noise itself, but the real thing underneath it, because she had been using the noise and the food it pointed toward to manage something she didn't yet have other tools for. The right wish is harder to articulate. It sounds something like, I want to understand what the noise is asking for. I want to be able to answer it in a way that actually helps. That's not a wish for silence, it's a wish for translation. What the noise is usually asking for. I've been listening to the noise, my own and other people's, for a long time. And underneath the language of food, I hear some version of the same things over and over. I'm in alarmed aloneness. This is the term I use for the state where your nervous system is activated, stressed, scared, angry, overwhelmed, grieving, and you're alone with it. No witness, no accompaniment, nobody sitting with you as the tree falls. Alarmed aloneness is one of the most powerful drivers of food seeking that I know. And it makes complete biological sense. You are wired for co regulation, for calming our nervous systems through connection with others. When that connection isn't there, the brain goes looking for the next best thing. And for many of us, food learned that job early and learned it well. The noise in this case is not asking for food, it's asking, is anyone there? Can someone be with me in this? I need to discharge something. Emotion is energy. Stress hormones are physical. Fear, guilt, rage, grief, these have to move through the body somehow. When they don't have a healthy path out, the system gets creative. Eating is one way the body has learned to create a temporary discharge. The noise in these moments is urgent because the pressure is real. It's not weakness, it's physiology. And the answer isn't to suppress it, it's to find another way to move the energy. I've been convinced that this is where joy lives. This is the one I want to spend a little more time on because it's the most insidious. Most of us were taught explicitly and implicitly by our families and our culture and the billion-dollar industry that profits from this belief that certain foods are where joy originates, that the treat is the reward, that celebration requires cake, comfort requires cookies, and that a life without these things is gray and diminished. The noise in these moments isn't pointing toward hunger. It's pointing toward the only place we've been taught to look for pleasure. It's a conditioned reflex, not a map to actual joy. And here's the tragic part. The substances we reach for have been engineered to hack the very reward system that generates genuine pleasure. Over time, chronic exposure to that engineered intensity actually downregulates your brain's capacity to feel satisfied, meaning the more you reach for the treat, the less the treat actually treats you. The noise gets louder, the satisfaction gets shorter, the need escalates. So the noise that sounds like, I need to be happy, is sometimes actually saying, my reward system has been hijacked and I've forgotten that joy has other addresses. What changes when you learn to read it? On that call, something remarkable happened. Michelle didn't fight the noise. She didn't argue with it, try to outrun it, or shame herself for having it. She listened to what it was pointing toward, the fear, the guilt, the aloneness, and she addressed those things directly. The route past the drive-through was already mapped in her brain. The habit pathway was running, and she stepped off it. Not because the noise went away, but because she learned to hear it differently. The noise didn't change that much, she said, but maybe it was shorter. Maybe it was less chaotic. That is the work, not silence, translation. And over time, with practice, with community, with the patience, this kind of rewiring actually requires the noise does change. Not because it disappears, but because you stop being afraid of it, because you know what it's asking for, because you have answers that actually work. Here is something I said at the end of that call that I want to say again here because I believe it completely. The noise isn't supposed to go away. It's supposed to alert us. The goal was never silence. The goal is learning to speak the language. A note on GLP-1 medications. I want to address this directly because it came up in the call and because I think it matters. GLP-1 medications can quiet the noise significantly. For some people, that quiet is the first relief they've had in years, even decades. That's real, and it is not nothing. I support people using every tool available to them. This work has always been both and. But the noise being quiet is not the same as the underlying need being met. The medication can create breathing room, genuine, valuable breathing room. The question is what you do with that room. If you use the quiet to do the deeper work, to start learning what the noise was actually asking for, to build the skills and the community and the practices that address those real needs, the quiet becomes a foundation. If you wait for the medication to be the whole answer and the noise returns when it's reduced or removed, you're back at the beginning without the tools. The work under the noise is where lasting change actually lives, not because the work is punishment. but because it's the only thing that actually answers the question the noise was asking. How to start listening. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to introduce a pause. The next time the noise gets loud, the pull toward the drive-through, the negotiating at 11 p.m., the urgent need for the specific thing, try this before you do anything else. Notice it without fighting it. Don't argue. Don't shame. Just there it is. Get curious. Not what's wrong with me, but what is this pointing toward? What is actually happening in my body and my life right now? Name what you find. Am I scared? Alone? Exhausted? Grieving something? Has something happened today that I haven't processed yet? See if you can address that thing directly. Not perfectly, just is there something more honest I can offer myself right now than the food? Sometimes you'll eat anyway. That's okay. The pause still happened. The translation is still learning to happen. The neural pathway toward curiosity instead of automatic response is still being built. You don't need to be perfect at this. You need to practice it. The real freedom. The wish for silence. The wish for the noise to just go away and leave you in peace is so understandable. I felt it myself for years. But the freedom I found and the freedom I watch people find in this community doesn't look like silence. It looks like fluency. It looks like hearing the noise and knowing what it means. It looks like having real answers for real needs. So the food stops being the only option. Michelle in her car, in the parking lot after the vet, texting her small group with shaking hands. She wasn't free because the noise went away. She was free because she knew what to do with it. That is the work, and it is worth every bit of the effort it takes. Sonia. This post is part of a trilogy. If it landed for you, you might also read, What if you're grieving something that was actually good? And The Science Behind Your Taste Bud Reset. 3 entry points into the same territory from 3 different directions, all at transformwithsonia.com.